All right. So today's rundown, we're gonna continue work on the desktop version of the site. We are going to watch a quick video on an intro to DevTools. I think the best way to learn DevTools is just by using them. And so we are going to do a quick 10-minute intro, and then you'll see over time me using the DevTools more and more. One thing to note there is stop me if at any point you're like, what'd you click on there? How'd you get to that? How are those dev tools working? So as we get into that, definitely feel free to slow me down because there are a lot of little details in the dev tools that you can really only learn by using them or seeing someone else use them. And then we are going to start on the mobile version of the new site, and we're going to start talking about responsiveness and mobile first design. And then if we have time, which I don't really think we will, we can start meshing the mobile responsive version down in with the new site. And then coming later this week, we're going to start on the Netflix project as well. And that project, we're going to make mobile responsive from the get-go. So this process may feel a little repetitive, because what we're going to do is make a mobile version of the site and then kind of merge the two together. So you're going to see there's a lot of code that overlaps there. But I think the process of understanding what a mobile site is, understanding what a desktop site is, and how to merge those two together is worth going through that process once, and will make the Netflix process a lot easier, because you've got the concept of taking those two and meshing them into one individual thing. So yeah, that is the plan for the day and the next couple days. But as always, I'd like to get us kicked off with stand up. What did we do yesterday? What were the light bulb moments? What did we cover? What was frustrating? What was helpful? All of that good stuff.
I just have a quick question.
Yep.
Just want to make sure I wasn't behind. Um, when we were doing the website, it was supposed to end with the like the news, the sport, and the like that was the end of it. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, we're going to finish that up today. Anything other than the first two rows, we're going to do the three columns underneath and the headlines and all of that stuff we're going to get to and finish up today.
Okay. Thank you. A light bulb moment yesterday and
Yeah, I love your guy, Brandon.
oh, yeah.
He's the truth.
What
Yeah.
else yesterday? What maybe clicked that you didn't get before? Was there anything where you're like, "Oh man, that was cool?" Anything like that?
Learning that there were actually markup tools in preview.
Yes, I think Preview is the most underrated tool on the Mac. I think Preview is super powerful and has that guise of being a basic app where it can just open files. But the markup tools in Preview are great, and I think they were actually the inspiration of the markup tools on the iPad that came out like 2 or 3 years ago. So Preview, really awesome application. It really is like it bridges the gap between like MS Paint. Remember back in the day of like drawing things in MS Paint? I think Preview does a really good job of kind of integrating that while also supporting a lot of different file extensions. So Preview, great application. Anything else from yesterday? Any questions from yesterday? Anything that didn't make sense? Anything you feel like you're really not getting?
I don't even remember yesterday.
Are we looking forward to finishing up the news site? Do we feel like we're making good progress there and learning through that?
Yeah, I was actually excited like to see that I was able to keep up yesterday and actually finish on time and understood everything that was going on, understood how everything was working, and so that made me excited.
Awesome, we'll fix that today. We'll turn up the speed a little bit more. No, I'm just kidding. We'll go at the same speed as yesterday. The good news is by what you guys considered Roadrunner yesterday, is going to feel Glacier on the end of this 2 week process, right? Because you're going to be like, all right, what site are you throwing at me? Let's get through it. Let's code it out quick, right? And that's just something that takes time, and it's really hard and frustrating on both your part and my part to be like, all right, how can we go slower? How can we get you onboarded here? But the good news is you're over that jump start, right? You're over that initial hump. And so as we start going, you're going to be like, I got these divs. I'm getting my indentation down. Closing divs are less of a problem for me. I'm finding my issues. I'm debugging as I go. And as we do more and more sites, that process just becomes smoother. With that said, do not panic if you're not there yet, right? Like that is something that is going to take time to settle into. We're only on project 2. We've done the weather app, and we're not even halfway through the news one. You will get more experience through Netflix, and if you're not over that initial hump yet, if you feel like you're not over it, the good news is you're on the road to getting over it. Wayne, great question about the live code link. Just give me 1 second to pull up VS Code here, and I will drop that in for you guys. I am starting off where we left off yesterday. It's probably not a bad idea if you right-click on any file in VS Code and go to Reveal in Finder. It's going to pop open a Finder link for you, a Finder window, excuse me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click and do a new folder, and I'm going to call that folder Day 2. And then I'm just going to copy my 2 files, come back over to Day 2, and paste them in. If you want to keep working on your existing files that you already have, that's completely fine. I'm just separating mine out so I can track my progress over the couple days. And if you're like, whoa, he went way too fast yesterday, I didn't have time last night to catch up, there are files in the outline for starter code, and you can and you can jump right in and use my files from yesterday. One thing to note there, you should not be turning those in for your assignment. So at some point, if you are using my starter code, you should go back through, get the practice of typing it out yourself, starting a file from scratch and doing all of that. And you can merge in code that you typed out yourself during class and put that into your own code. But I can actually tell at a line-by-line level what you've copied and pasted and what you've brought in and typed yourself. So I would really, really, really encourage you to type it yourself because that's what's going to give you the practice of the syntax and getting a handle of it. With that said, I am going to close out of this and go to open and pop open my week 2, day 2. And there's all my code. So I'm going to go to live share and share this with you guys in the live stream. Week 3, day 2.
How did you copy both of the files from day 1 to day 2 again?
I went into Finder and highlighted here and just hit Command C, and then went into my other folder and hit Command V.
Okay, thank you.
So the live stream link is in Slack, and it's coming in right now into Zoom. And I'm going to start my Go Live server, pick up where we left off, and wait for a couple of you guys to hopefully join in through the live share and give you guys a minute to catch up. If you want to just keep working off the files that you have from yesterday, that's fine. You don't necessarily have to move them into a day 2 folder because we're just continuing to work on them. But if it will help you stay more organized to copy them over and have separate files, that's also completely fine. See a couple of you trickling in. If you guys are stuck anywhere, feel free to shout out a question. You guys trickling in. A reminder that you can always pull up my code in your own browser by going over to this live share section and then double clicking on the live server, and that's going to open it up. You can tell it's my code because it's going to be 5600 in the URL bar. Your code is going to be on 5500. We'll actually be doing a deeper dive on ports during the API section coming up. All right, I'm seeing most of you in here. Last chance for questions. Anyone need help? Hopefully we are settling into our day-by-day setup. Remember... What?
If you see somebody else's name moving around on the code, that just means it's live, right?
Yeah, the live share feature is really meant to like so that you can be working on the code at the same time, but we learned our lesson in the second and first cohorts that doing read only is really the way to go, because it's really easy to accidentally be modifying my code without realizing that you're in with thinking that you are in your own code. So did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm in, I've got this. The last thing I need to do is pull up my mockup, and I probably should have included that in the outline. So let me just go into the week 2, day 1 outline and grab the link for that, and put it back in this area, and then pop that open here. Okay, and the other one's probably going to be a little bit more helpful. Okay, so we've got our 3 columns, and we always want to do our layout first before we get any content working, right? I'm actually going to pull up both of these just so we can compare the two. If you look at the one that we didn't draw a bunch of lines over, there's actually a nice little border styling going on between them, right? So we're going to try and add that in as we go, which is also going to make it much easier to see our columns. So first things first, I'm going to come down into my code, and we've got div soup going on here, right? We've got a ton of divs. We got to figure out where the starting and the ending ones are. So it looks like, if I'm following my indentation down, this is the end of the row. And if I click on this div down here, it's going to highlight that that's in my container fluid. Well, we're going to actually do something different here. We're going to have 2 different containers. Does anyone remember what the difference between a container and a container fluid was?
Yeah, the container fluid will expand for the full screen no matter the size, and the container will top out at a certain point.
Exactly. So what we're going to do is actually come out of our container fluid, and we're going to add a new class for our regular container. And the thinking there is that I want my navbar to stretch the full width of the page, but my content, because it's going to have it's content, right? It's going to have a lot of words with it. I want that to be constrained so your eye doesn't have to read the full width of the screen. It's going to have all the content kind of right in the center. So I'm going to add my div class container. We should never be using a row or grid system without a container if we're using the Bootstrap system, whether it's container or container fluid. Using that container class just makes Bootstrap happy. So we're going to do a div class row, and then we are going to start with 3 columns. And I'm not going to specify a size on them to get started. I just want to make sure that my columns are working and in the right spot. So I'm just going to do a 1, 2, and a 3, and tab that over so my indentation is right. Come over here, and I've got my first column, my second column, and my third column. All right, great. But looking at our design, we can see that these columns are just slightly smaller than this column. So what we want to do is we want to space it out. We know we've got 12 columns available, and we have, 12 slots available in the grid system, and we need to break that down into 3 columns. But because they aren't evenly sized, I'm going to make this a col 6, which means we take 12 minus 6, and we have 6 spots left. And then we're going to split it and say this is going to be a 3 and this is going to be a 3. And that's just going to help us figure out, okay, that's the breakdown. So I'm going to make this a 3, I'm going to make this a 6, and I'm going to make this a 3. And I'm going to come back in here, and it looks like it's doing the right thing, but it's kind of hard to tell, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an ID here, and I'm going to say left column, and I'm going to add an ID over here, and I'm going to call that my right column. And if we need to, we can always come back and add a class to our center column, but or an ID, but I don't think we're going to need it quite yet. So I'm going to go into my style, and I'm going to say, hey, my left col should have a border, and it should be on the right side of it, right? Because we're targeting this area right in here, and we want that to be 1px solid, and let's make it gray. Well, we got a tiny little line there. All right, well, if I come back over here and I say, all right, here's an H1 with a word and another word. Now all of a sudden my line is coming down, and that's doing what we want it to do, but it's only the length of our content. Okay, well that's not exactly what we want, because if we look at our wireframe, it goes all the way down to the bottom of the page. So we're gonna come back to that, because I want to show you guys the dev tools and then show you how we can use the dev tools to actually do our dev work. So we've got it started there. We know we need to come back to that. So if you were using Trello right now, that would actually be a really good thing to say, hey, as I'm deving on this, there's one thing I need to add, and that is, and just throw it in there, because it's going to be easy to forget about that. But we're going to come back to that. So I'm going to take these out, because I think our layout is actually pretty close. While we have the right col, I'm going to come in there and just not forget that our right col is going to have a border on the left, because we're talking about over here, right? So because we're targeting this column, that's going to go on the left side, and we'll just copy all of that out and just switch it to a left. And if we go back to our code, we've got our column going on the left side. All right, that's good. We're making good progress. Let's start pumping in our content. So we're going to come in here, and we've got, let's just assume that it's going to be an H2, and we're going to say latest. And there's my latest showing up. And now we run into this interesting thing of, well, we've got a row. Can we do a row in a row? And the answer is absolutely. We don't want to think about this being part of the entire 12 span, because when we put in another row, it's going to break just this area in the red down into another 12 divisible area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a div class row, and then I'm going to say div class is going to be, let's just start with one column, and that looks like it's going to be 6M, representing that that was posted 6 minutes ago. And then a div class col, and we're going to put our headline in. And let's say that's going to be an H3 maybe, and say headline 1. So I'm going to come back into my code. Headline 1 might be a little too big. Let's try it as an H4 instead. All right, a little bit better. Now my spacing is off, right? And so we're actually going to start using our dev tools here, because we could go back to our code, we could fiddle with it, we could get it right. But I'm going to right click and go to inspect, and that's going to pop open my dev tools. Now your dev tools might be over here on the right, they may be anchored down at the bottom, but if you find these 3 little dots and click on them, you can actually control where your dev tools are going to show up. So right now I've got mine in the little pop out mode. I'm going to dock mine to the bottom and hit the close button here just so I have some room to work. Then I want to see what happens. You see when I highlight over this div, it's showing me the blue and green area. The blue area is showing me how much space the div is taking up on its own, and then the green area is actually showing me the padding that's built into the grid system. But if I come in here and I say I want to just see what this looks like as a col-2, all I need to do is double click on my class here, and that's going to put me in editor mode. And now if I hover over that, my 6 minutes is actually pretty close to where I want it. The only problem is that blue area isn't big enough to hold the whole thing. So let's try and adjust that and make it a 4. And now we're too big. So I think our 3 is going to be the sweet spot. That looks like it's holding the content particularly well. So because I can play around in here and see what it's going to render out without having to update all of my code, the dev tool is an area where we can have a sandbox, but as soon as we refresh or make a change to our code, it's going to overwrite it. So now that I know a 3 is going to work in here, I'm going to come in and add a 3. Now I could add a -9 here if I wanted to, but what Bootstrap is going to do is just fill that up with the most available space if we don't put another number in there. So it's actually fine to leave this as is. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to copy my row 3. I'm going to paste twice, and I'm going to say headline 2. And then the other thing that we want to test with is making sure that our content is actually going to wrap down onto the next line properly. So I'm going to come into my headline 1, and I'm going to say another headline that's just a bit longer. And basically what we're doing there is using placeholder content to make sure that it's going to wrap down properly. So,
sorry, Max, where did you copy paste that?
I copied my row with my columns in it, and then I pasted it down. And while I'm in here, I might as well say like 38 minutes ago and 55 minutes ago, just so we've got some variation going on. So I'm going to just do a quick check. This is feeling a lot like this to me. Just look at my headlines are right. And if I just pull this out a little bit more so we've got breathing room, that's looking pretty good to me. We might need to do some final tweaks, which we always tend to need to do, but I'm going to take a second there to pause and make sure everyone is caught up. So I'm going to launch our poll.
Okay. I have a question.
Yep.
With the placeholder content that you're using to have the minutes, can you explain again why you're putting how many minutes ago you updated the placeholder content?
Yeah, so
what the purpose of that is.
This is meant to emulate a news site. So if you went onto a news site and you were looking at the latest news, you kind of want to know how recently that article was published.
Oh, okay. So that's more so a note for like from developer to developer rather than.
No, that's a.
Oh, it really is putting in the content for how often the site's been updated.
Correct. Yeah. So when you think about a news website and like you want the breaking news, this is thinking about this is like how long ago was that article published?
Okay.
And that's what this time is representing.
All right. Thank you.
So I'm not going to say what site we're modeling this off of, the real site, but if you entered, I don't know, the main city you're in.com in a website, in a new tab, you may get an idea of what we're emulating this off of.
Okay.
We've got 5 votes in. The majority of those votes are saying no, but keep going. So I just want to touch on that for a minute. This will be a homework assignment. So if you can follow along now, it's going to mean that you're way ahead on homework because this is one of the major assignments for this week. With that said, if you're finding that it's easier to just watch and catch up after class, that's completely fine. The only downside to that is as you're going, if you get stuck anywhere, you don't have the opportunity to raise your hand and go, whoa, this isn't working for me. So while I get that some people may benefit more from rewatching the class and catching up, I would encourage you to at least try at the beginning of class to go along with me, follow along, and see if it's making sense, because that the opportunity to stop me and ask questions is really valuable.
So I think when you started to insert the dev tools is where I kind of fell behind that.
Okay. So the dev tools we're going to do an overview of so you get a better idea of how they work. The important thing that you're following along with is this HTML.
Okay.
Max,
Yes.
so I pretty sure I have the correct code. You know, I put everything in myself. My page is loading, but everything just seems kind of out of whack. Can I share my screen?
You sure can.
Here's the result.
Okay. So let's go to your code.
Here's my code.
Okay, so we've got a opening div and a closing div and an opening div and a closing div and an opening div and a closing div all the way down here. So do we want this row to be inside this row, or do we want it to be another row?
Would it be its own separate row?
It would. So what you need to do is add a closing div right in between 49 and 50. And then shift 51 through 58 over one indentation level. Shift tab will move it in the opposite direction. Just hold in shift and then hit tab on the keyboard, and that's gonna unindent it. Oh, Command Z. Try shift tab again.
Oh,
There you go. And one more time. Okay, now that's lining up. Now for our next one, where do we want that column? Do we want that column in another row, or do we want it in our general headline area?
oh, this column right here, right?
Yep.
Well, it looks like it's a separate headline. So would it be,
So we want that headline to follow the same format of all of our other headlines. So basically what you want to do is copy this entire row and paste it so we have an area for a third headline, and then just update that area, that headline text. Careful, it should end at 58.
okay, so copy and then paste it into, yeah.
So you should be replacing 59 through 61. And then clear out your 67 there. And I think you're 68. Now your indentation is lining up. And you can just put in the longer headline there.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
When I finish, can you help me with indentation? Oh, it's on.
Yes, I can. So I would encourage, let me just do a quick screen share on indentation so we can align it visually with what's going on, because getting good at figuring out your indentation is going to be super important skill to be able to do yourself. So, and the dev tools are actually a good way to help visualize that, right? So if I hover over my container, you can see all of the things in my container. That means that if I collapse this div here, everything is shrunk up inside of that. And if I hover over it, we can see that my container fluid actually has my top 2 rows, right? It's got my nav bar and it's got my sublinks area. And then if I hover over here, I've got my container. Okay, well, let's go down. Let's see what's in that container. In this container, there's a row, and that row is holding all of our content. Now, what's in the first column, we can hover over that and see what's just in there. So let's actually scroll down. We can see my 6 and my 3, and they don't really have anything in them yet. So we can go back up and look at this and go, okay, we've got one row. That row has my col 3 and my col in it, but now we're getting an idea of, hey, this div is really just an H2 with 3 rows in it. Now those 3 rows have additional columns in it, but we need to think about, hey, if I want to divide this up, if I want to have another area of 12 that I can divide up, I need to put that in a row. And so thinking about this as like, hey, what's a repeatable component here? This row is really the time and the headline, but that's a chunk of code that I want to use. Now, if I want to reuse that code, I need to think about, well, do I just want the time? Do I just want the headline? Or do I want that entire row where that content is showing up? And the answer to that is, of course, I want the whole row. So that means I'm not going to just copy the headline. I'm not going to copy the time and the headline. I need to copy this entire row. And we're able to tell where that starts and stops because I've got my indentation correct. And so whenever you start a new div, you need to be asking yourself, is this a div that I should be putting inside another div to get the layout right? Or is this a div that is going to start another section of my site? And the answer here is, well, we're starting new divs, but it needs to go inside our column, our first column. And so because of that, we need to look at where this closing div is. And based off of where that closing div is, we know how we can get things in. Because I can take this entire row, take it and say, oh, I want this to show up in our third column instead, paste it in, and look where it shows up over in our third column. So that's the important thing, is figuring out, like, where do I want this div to go? Is this div going to come outside of the column, or is this div going inside my column? Because oftentimes what we're going to end up with is rows inside of columns, inside of rows, inside of other columns, right? And so that figuring out where the div is starting and stopping is telling our layout where we're going to go.
Yeah, I think all my divs are inside of one div, probably. You know, I just been pressing enter.
Do you want help pulling them apart?
No, not yet. You can continue.
Okay. All right. So believe it or not.
Max,
yeah.
Can you take a look at my code real quick?
Yep,
And try to clean it up. I think I might have copy pasted the wrong thing or something.
Okay, we've got our... You are missing a closing arrow tag on 41. And I don't know if you want that. Try taking out that closing div and then fixing your indentation there. So, you're also missing a closing arrow on 39. And take that one out as well, the closing div. Yeah. Okay, so you've got your row, your column. Now just go through and try and fix the indentation on your own. So basically, whenever we open a new column, we need to make sure that the indentation is lining up first. So hit a space to get it aligned with div. And now hit your tab to move it over an entire step over.
He needs another closing arrow on 52, it looks like. Or 3.
Yeah. So keep going. Because your H2 on your latest opened and closed, you know that the line after that should be indented one step. So go back up to your indentation on, yep. So where should 43 be? Okay, and 44? Now, why is 43 and 44 at the same level? So it's normally easier to go through and say, all right, I opened a div, so until I see a closing one for that, I'm just going to go through line by line and get them lined up. So you're on the right track there. Just keep going. Yep. Does anyone not understand why divs should be at the level that they are? So looking at my code, does anyone have questions about the indentation on it?
I know it's supposed to be different, but like I know mine is supposed to look like yours, but it doesn't. But I didn't want you to look at it until I finished, like, or at least caught up to where you were at.
Okay. I will say it's more important to say, slow down, hold on, I need to get my indentation right, because indentation is harder to fix than it is to get right the first time, right? So it's super easy to go, wait, what's he typing? I need to get that typed in as well. But before you type anything, make sure that your indentation is at the right spot. And Zach, before you finish that out, I just want to go back up to 50-ish. So now you can see there's a closing div on 50, but there should probably be another closing div because 51 is... Oh, hold on. Something's not right there. So can you expand that window up so it's over my code? Or, yeah, just so we can see a little bit more of it. Okay, so what's going on here is you're saying... you've got your row, you've got your time, but this headline 2 is in this row. So this needs to be coming over another step. 47 through 49.
Where do I put it?
No. Command Z that. Put that back a couple times. Command Z. And then just tab it. So if you highlight 47 through 49 and hit the tab key once, it will automatically move all the lines over. And then your 48 needs to come over a level as well. Okay, and now we can say, okay, this closing div should come over all the way to the left. One more step. Other way. I'm sorry, to the right. I said left, I meant right. Okay, and now that comes over. Now, looking at the div on 51, tell me what div that's closing.
Looks like it'd be closing this one, so I need another one.
Well, where should your next headlines be coming? Should they be coming in at column 3, or do you want them not in the column? So go back to your live site or to the mockup. Okay, so we've got column... Oh, I didn't want you to refresh there. Is that... Do you have mine open?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got 3 columns, right? We got column 1, we got column 2, and we've got column 3. Now, looking at where the other headlines are, we've got headline 1, and that's kind of in the right spot on your site. Now, where do we want headline 2 to come? We want headline 2 to be in column 1.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is we want to see, okay, we've got column -3 going here in our left column, right? And so go ahead and put your cursor on the part that says div of the column 3. Right here. Just hit the right arrow key so you're over in the actual word that says div. And now you should be able to see, hit over one more. That might be missing its closing div. Try adding another closing div between 51 and 52. Okay, and crap, we're missing oh, no. Put your mouse between the D and the I on 41, like right here. Why is that not highlighting your closing div? I'm confused by that. Because you've got... Okay, you should have... you should have 3 closing divs at the end. And you've got 4... So let me share my screen, and I'm gonna just go through my layout and add some comments, which might make it helpful. And then I will come back to you, Zach. Okay, so what I've got going on here, because we got a lot of levels of indentation, right? And it's easy to look at this and say, this is showing up where I want it to show up, but it's easy to get lost in all of them, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look here. My container, I'm going to leave a couple notes in my code. So my container is containing those 3 columns, right? So I'm going to go up to my container fluid, and I'm going to add a note at the top of it. So I hit Command / that put in the comments, and I'm going to say top 2 nav rows. Then I'm going to look at my container fluid, and I see my row going on here. So I'm going to add another comment that's going to say top navbar. And I'm going to come back here and add another one that says bottom links bar. But I'm also going to annotate where they end. So if I put my div here, you see that that's highlighting. I'm going to add a comment in here that says close of bottom links bar. And if, let me see, if I highlight that, no, it's not going to let me do that. So I'm going to do a manual comment. I'm going to hit the exclamation, the arrow, the exclamation mark, --, and then I need to close out the comment as well. So I'm going to do a --, and another one. That means that down here, if I look up, this is the end of my container fluid. So I'm going to say end of top 2 nav bars. So what I'm saying there is, okay, now I'm going to start a new container. So that container I know is going to be out here because I don't want that container in my 2 nav bars. I want a completely separate section of the screen. So I'm going to say start of 3 columns container. And then I've got a, yeah, question?
We should be writing the comments too.
If you want to, if it'll help you code them. I mean, I recommend putting comments in.
Yes, I agree with Karen. You don't have to be putting in these comments, but if it's going to help you figure out where your divs are controlling your layout, that's going to be super helpful. So what I'm going to do is I have my start of my 3 columns container. Before I dive into that, I'm going to just go all the way down to the bottom, and this div is highlighted. So I'm going to do my comment and say end of, and I'm going to make sure names match, 3 columns container. Okay, now I've got my row going on here, but it's important to identify what does that row contain. I don't want to say start of row, end of row, because we've got even more rows coming. So we should identify what is in that row. That row, if I hover over it here, right here, that row is the row for my 3 columns worth of content. So I'm going to add in another comment here that says start of content row. And then I'm going to go down and I'm going to go find the end of it. And right on the end, that line, I'm going to say end of content row. Now I want to keep going, right? So I'm going to say, all right, my col 3. What does my col 3 contain? I don't want to just call it col 3. I want to say this is my latest column, right? That's my latest headlines. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say start of latest col. And then I want to go find the end of it. And I'm going to say end of latest col. Then I want to come in here and go, all right, now we've got an H2. So this I'm going to call my latest col content. And I want to find the end of that. So I'm going to come down and in here I'm going to say end of latest col content. Now I know that anything that I put in here is going to be, right, we've got another row and a column. So I'm going to add a comment in, and it doesn't necessarily have to be at every single div. You can say start of a headline, and then end of a headline. So now when I come in here, I can highlight this whole copy of the code and say, all right, I know I want to be able to add in another headline. But I'm going to scroll down, and I don't know, there are a lot of divs down here. How do I know where I put in another headline if I want another one to show up? Well, I'm going to look, and this is the end of the latest column content, so I know that that needs to be, my code that I'm putting in needs to be above that, because I don't want it to be outside of the end of the latest column. So I'm going to come down here and paste that in and say yet another headline and save, and now look, that's in the right spot. But if I wanted to say put that over here for some reason, I have a second latest column or a different trending area or something, I can take that whole thing and now I want to look and I want to say, all right, where else is it going, right? This is my second column and my third column. So I know that if I want it to show up over here, it's gotta be inside my right column. If we took that and we put that outside of columns, we're gonna get mayhem, right? Because it's like, all right, you got your col 3. I know how big a col 3 is gonna be. Now I've got another headline coming in here. Well, that's another row. Whoa, what's going on? Rows should not have rows directly in them. There should be a row and then the column and the row. So that's why that indentation is super important, because that's what's telling us, hey, because this is indented over here, we're able to get over and see it. Now, if I pasted this here and it pasted here, before I did anything else, before I added another div, before I pasted again, I would say this indentation is wrong, because we open the div and we close our div down here, so we have to be indented at that right level. So I'm going to highlight all of this, and I'm just going to hit the tab key until this is lining up with this, but it's also indented one level from my opening div and my closing div. Whenever we open a new div and have our closing div, we first make sure our opening div's at the right indentation, we make sure our closing div is at the right indentation, then we make sure our content is at the right level of indentation. So I'm going to actually end the poll and restart it, and the question that I am asking now on this poll is your indentation at the right level, and do you have your content showing up?
Oh,
No.
no.
Okay, so if you're not, let's go through that. I think hopefully everyone's got an understanding of what their indentation should be. Take a minute now and try and correct your indentation. And if you need help, let me know.
My headline is not lining up.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen.
Where is it?
Okay, let's take a look at your code.
It takes practice to get it down.
Okay, so you've got your you've got a good call, you've got your calls going on here, call. What's different about this column? What's different about that column?
This one?
Yep.
Oh. Oh.
All right, save, let's take a look. Ooh, thanks to layout gods.
Killing me. Just one thing. Just one thing. All right. Thank you.
No problem. Now, okay, yeah.
I'm listening.
Well, I was just gonna say I think you're missing this is all 44. I think you'll catch up. I think you're missing a couple closing divs between 71 and 72 and your center column.
Okay. Yeah, I've been trying to work those out, because when I click on this one right here, it doesn't show me where it ends, because you can click on the divs and
Yeah.
it will, that for that one I'm like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah, so you can tell when you've got two closing divs at the same indentation level that you're missing closing divs.
Okay.
So it's normally easier to work at your innermost div out than it is to start at your outermost div and work in.
So I should like start from these ones.
Yep.
Make sure these ones are okay.
Yep. And now what's going on with this indentation level? You open your div, you close your div. Why is this at another indentation level?
This one, right?
Well, stop and ask yourself, should that go in, or am I missing a closing div? Do you want your other headline to be a row inside of this row, or do you want it to be another row entirely?
Another row entirely.
Okay, so bring that indentation level out and ask yourself, where is the closing div for this row?
There we go. Where is it?
Okay, now, take out those data grids. Okay, so now you've got your opening row, your closing row, your columns are all right. Now ask yourself, where do you want this right column to be showing up? So, okay, but we've got a problem though. Scroll down. We've got a closing div and an opening div. Those should always be on the same indentation levels. So you're either missing some closing div, or you've got something else going on. My guess is that you're missing a closing div, because you're closing out your call 3, but that's for the latest column.
Right. So I need one more for this, and which would be this. Okay. So if I
and then let me scroll up. Let's see what line that's closing. That's closing your row. So where do you want your next column to show up?
So it might just be something, or because the
You want it to
This
show
one.
up next to the latest column, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So you want to be in between right here because this is the end of the content row.
So I need to indent this some.
Nope, you need to move that in here.
Oh, I need to move this and okay.
74, 75, and 76 in, yes. Okay, and then move that closing div in one level because it needs to line up with that. Okay, never use our spacebar for lining things up because now this doesn't actually line up. So hit over, delete the space before the div, and then use tab instead to get it to line up. There you go. Now just clean out that bottom line, and then let's take a look at your browser. Boom.
Perfect. Thank you. Huh. Okay.
I know it's frustrating because it's a ton of divs, right? If it makes you feel any better, we have 24 divs in this code alone. So it's tough to get it right, but going through getting that practice and saying, okay, I know he's typing really fast. I know I'm going to have to catch up. But saying, where is this div going in? Am I putting this div in at the right spot? Do I want this div to go inside the column or should it go in the next column over? That's what you need to get the practice at. And believe it or not, I know you're going to hate me, but going back and doing this exercise over and over until you get your divs going in the right spot is going to be super helpful. And practicing with the comments, that's completely fine. Christy's got a question and is super excited.
Maybe not. I'm going to share my screen.
Yep.
I want to ask you, because I got a mouse, and so I'm getting something weird, and I just want to know if... Okay, so I'm on line 50 because I'm trying to add what you added. So where am I? This is 50. So I want you to see what this is doing. And I want to know, is this doing it on everybody else's computer? So you see that stuff? Does that everybody's computer do that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't recall. Okay, so then this is 50.
Dash. Nope, regular dashes, not underscores.
Then it fills it in.
Yes.
Okay.
So maybe just hit a space and add your, yep. It's trying to help you by putting in your closing tags.
So this, right, and then it puts that was already, maybe I missed something. Okay. I feel like today I'm seeing this and it seems to be shocking me. Okay. I'm trying to put in, I was caught up and then you put all this green stuff in here. So I'm trying to fill in the green.
Yep.
Okay,
yeah.
I just wanted to know if I was, because it's pre-filled. So I'm typing and I'm not looking, and then when I come back, it's double. Okay.
Yeah, so I would say the importance of the green is not to have it in your own code. It's making sure you understand how to generate it yourself, right? And so like saying, all right, here's the start of the headline. Without looking at my code to figure out where the closing div is, let me scroll down and be able to identify where that is, and then let me put it in there and then check to make sure Max put it in the same spot. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, so
wait a second. Well, because you don't think I need this, right?
So comments you never need. Comments are just so that you can understand the code, because basically what you're doing is whenever you put this symbol in, you're telling the browser, buzz off, I just need some comments in here. So the browser is going to completely ignore anything that you put between that opening tag and that closing tag. The point of the comment is just so that you can understand the code. It's not so that the browser can understand the code.
Right. I understand that part, but I need it now because if I don't, my stuff won't line up with yours.
Well,
and then I won't understand.
So yeah, I mean, Yeah, if you want to exactly mirror mine, that's fine. But the more important thing is that you're getting the practice of being able to identify where the opening div is and where the closing div is.
But your green comments and me having that to go back and reference is gonna, like when I'm by myself, is going to
That's
okay.
fine. Yep, and it's not a waste of your time. I mean, if it's helping go through it, but the only thing that I'm suggesting is instead of scrolling through my code and saying, oh, he added another comment in here, try to do it yourself. Try and say, all right, I did a start of a headline, and let me go figure out where the end of 51 is. Right, and let me scroll down and figure out, oh, the end of 51 is on whatever line, and then let me make sure that it lines up with Max's.
Right, and see, if we go down, oh no, I'm in a different area. So I was hitting, and I didn't stop at that point, but there were times when it was time for me to put in the div where I had to shift tab. It didn't, when I hit enter, it didn't just line up. Is that normal?
That's normal.
Okay.
And
Okay.
yeah, paying attention to before you put in that closing div, or if it put in the closing div for you, is it at the right level? Because there are times that it is not.
Okay. Okay. So I'm halfway there.
All right. The two of you that are lost, either shoot me a DM or shoot me the TA a DM, shoot the TA a DM, or let me know, come off mute, where are you lost? What are you struggling with? This is
okay. I did. Oops,
go ahead.
Sorry.
Sophia. Nope.
I was about to say I didn't vote. But I'm over here still trying to fix my my indents and add the comments.
Okay. Are you feeling like you're making progress, or you feel like it's endless?
I felt like I was making progress, and then I looked over at yours, and I feel like now it's kind of endless. I feel like now I kind of like lost myself.
Yeah. So I think the important thing to identify here is you get the concept. So regardless of how hard it is to get your code to line up, do you understand this div needs to go inside this div because I want it in the column? Or, oh, this div should come outside of that div because I want it outside the column, right? So whenever you look at a new row, here in our wireframes where we've broken it down, we need to identify, hey, I need a new row here because I made a new red box, right? I know that that needs to be a row. So hold up. Where do I need to put it? Do I want it in this col 3, or do I want it over here? Well, I want it inside this col 3, so I need to go figure out where that closing div is for that col 3 and put it inside of that. And so it's easy to look here and say, oh, well, we've got a col 3 right here. But stop. What is that a col 3 for? Is that this big col 3 going on here? Or is that a col 3, this tiny little one in here? Well, this tiny little col 3 in here is actually in a bigger col 3 out here. So what I really need to identify is, instead of saying, oh, that's going to go in the col 3, I need to identify that as this red box here is going to go in my bigger left col.
Did you mean to be sharing your screen when you just went through all of that? Because nobody saw that. Yeah.
Stupid Max. Let me try that again. Okay. What I need to be identifying here is, all right, I know I need another row here. And you see this red box. Whenever we have a red box, we know we need a row. So what we have to identify is where do we need to put that div? We know that it needs to go in this, and this happens to be a col 3. So if we look at our col 3, we go, oh, it needs to go right in here. But really what we need to do is take a step back and say, wait, col 3, that's 6 minutes. That's this tiny little col 3 in here. The col 3 that I really want to put it in is this bigger left column one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go find my left column, and I know that it needs to go one level deeper in my indentation than this left column. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click, I'm going to go down, I'm going to find the bottom of my left column, my latest col, and then I'm going to go one level in, and that's where I want to put my new row. Now I've got a new row. I've got a full 12 to work with inside of that col 3, so I can do another column and a column. So the indentation... Sorry.
I was just wanting to say hi.
The indentation is not super important for the computer. It's super important for you to stay sane, because this code, believe it or not, is a very standard level of indentation. And so understanding why the divs are flowing that way is super important. And if you guys, I do think you'll find it helpful if you're not trying to code along and you try and redo this exercise tonight. What you're going to do is because you're not rushing through the indentation, anytime you do a new div, that's when it's important to say, okay, where should this indentation level be? Am I putting this in above a closing div or below a closing div? When I put that new div in, do I have the closing div? Is everything at that right level? And if it is at that right level, now I can go in, put a space in, and indent one level deeper. So you'll notice I don't spend a ton of time going back and fixing my indentation, because as I'm writing my code, I'm making sure that it's at that right level. And I can do that super quick because I have those years of experience, right? But it's possible to get comfortable there, and it's easier to get your indentation done when you're writing the code than going in and trying to fix it. Because when you go in and you try and fix it, you're going to realize that you've got closing divs in addition to your indentation being wrong.
Max, I know somebody asked a similar question earlier, but as far as that row that you're kind of focusing right now, where it says col 356 M, and then the next one, yeah, right there. So the 56 minutes is how long ago that particular H4 was updated to the news site.
Correct.
So each set of those is a headline itself.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's what I'm worried about. Like, I think I understand a lot of it because of the prep work and because of just doing some of this outside of here. But I think where I'm worried is that, like, I'm gonna follow you just like this because this is easy to just follow you, but I'm still not gonna retain some of the information, the important information.
Yeah, so let's shoot for this, because I know we're 8 minutes away from our normal break time. So let's try and power through on getting this complete, right? Because we're only 2 columns away from getting there. So if you're lost in your div soup, let's try this. Let's power through after break. I think we can get this column done, or at least it started. So let's take the next 8 minutes, get this done, come back after break, finish off the whole site. And if you're getting it and you feel like you're not fighting the divs, you can take off and get a half of your night back. If you're still fighting it, we'll make the decision then. Do I want to start over from scratch so I can go through at my own pace and get this working? Or do I want help from Max and Karen finding my matching divs, getting my indentation right, and fixing it? You may find that starting over from scratch is actually going to let you get through them quicker. And starting at my starter files tonight is going to let you get that alignment right. But if you're sitting here and you're like, I got the whole site done, cough, cough, there is one student that I know already has it done, you are welcome to take off or help other students. But what I really want to do is get through this, get the whole site complete. If you want to sit along and watch and go, I'm lost, let me just take this in the first time, we can spend the second half of class tonight just working on our closing divs. I know that sounds like a huge time waste, but it is so important that we get our divs lining up right. And this concept of indentation and indented code and levels of it is going to follow you everywhere in this program. So if you don't get it now, it's going to cause problems later. So that's why I want to spend the time sinking into this and making sure we're getting it right. Does that sound good to everyone?
Yes.
Cool. All right. So I want to keep going here. I'm going to go just a tiny little bit faster than normal so we can get through, and then we will we'll spend all the time on our closing divs. And if you want me to go over and over in it again and again and saying why I'm putting it there, we can do that. If you think it's more useful to fix your indentation, we can do that. But I do think there is value if you're feeling lost, if your divs feel like an endless battle to fix. It is probably going to be better to go through them at your own pace than it is going to be catching up with me. Okay, let's keep going here. I want to just knock out our center column, and then we will keep going. So this is the first time that we're going to really be using an image tag. Now, I need to come in here, and I'm looking at this, and I know that this is a completely different section of the site. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, my col 3 is up here, and this is the start of the content row. Well, we're still in the content area of the site. So really, I need to find where this div closes. So I'm going to scroll down. You notice this line is just a little bit lighter. What that's doing is that's saying that's the end of the latest column. So we're still in the content because this is the end of the content div all the way down here. That means that in my col 6, this is where I want to be working. So I'm going to look at my mockup. We don't have any text at the top there, but we do have an image. So I'm going to do an IMG. You guys can use whatever image you want. I happen to have images on my desktop. So I'm going to come over, I'm going to grab my headline image, and I'm going to add that in to my day 2 folder. Okay, I just dragged and dropped that in Finder, and so now I've got my headline.jpg over here, so I'm going to do a source tag, and I need to match this .jpg exactly. So I'm going to type in headline.jpg, VS Code's going to help me there. I'm going to add my closing tag. Image tags are almost always self-closing tags. I'm going to come back over to my code. And, well, I got my image, but it's massive. So what we're going to do is add an ID. Let's add a class to this in case we need to add some additional images down the road. And I'm going to say full width is the name of my class. I'm going to go back into my style. I'm going to use a period because it's a class and not an ID because we are planning on reusing this. And I'm going to say width is going to be 100%. And that shrunk it down for me, right? That's saying, hey, the width of this image should not be more than 100% of the parent that it's in. Well, the parent that it's in is in this col 6. So the 100% is being constrained not by 100% of the screen width, but 100% of the parent. Well, the parent is the col 6, so it's going to shrink it down into that area. Okay, we're going to just keep going. We've got another row going on here. So I'm going to do, where's my row going to go? Well, I want it inside my col 6, but not outside. I don't want it down underneath. I want it all constrained into this column. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an H4, and I'm going to say a breaking news. Oh, you know what? I want to put all of this in a div so we can identify it and reproduce it. And right in here in my comments, it's fine to say start of news article and bring it right down and say end of news article. So we've got an idea of where that's starting and ending. Totally optional, but if it helps you follow it, add your comments. And so it looks like we've got some tagline. So I'm going to just make that a tagline. Some info about the breaking news you won't believe. And then it looks like we've got another one going on down here with the author's name and when it was posted. So I'm just going to do another tagline and say Max Matthews and say that it was posted 44 minutes ago. How Syracusean of us. Take a look. We've got it in there. We need to do some style changes. That's fine. We're just going to keep rolling. I'm going to say, hey, we got some bullet points in here about the article, right? So I'm going to do a UL, which stands for an unordered list. And inside that UL tag, because all of those list items have to be in the overall parent of the unordered list, I'm going to add a list item that says bullet point 1, bullet point 2, and shockingly bullet number 3. Okay, now if we look, we've got another area going on here. So where do I want to copy and paste? Well, I want the H4, the P tag, the UL, all of that, but I want the div that's containing all of that. So I'm going to highlight that div. Now I'm going to come down here, and if VS Code puts me over here, I'm going to say, whoa, whoa, whoa. Before I paste anything, let me tab over and make sure that my cursor is lining up with this div here, because we're opening another div. We're going to save that, make sure that that div's lining up. If there's anything that's not, I'm going to go back in and fix it. And now it's going to look like my 2 news articles. Do we need to clean up spacing and padding and borders and all of that? Yes. But the important thing is that we've got it coming in here. And we're able to say, hey, if I really wanted to, if I wanted all of that information over on the right, I could come into this col 3, paste, and my whole news story would show up over there. But because I can identify, I don't want it in my right column, I want it in my center column, I can click on this div and understand that this div is the end of my col 6, so it's got to be going in right there. And that's what's going to make it show down there. So if you've gotten to this point already and it's rocking and rolling, you're done with class tonight. You can take a 20-minute break and decide not to come back, and that's fine. If you're feeling like you are lost and that you're just endlessly battling these divs, we're going to take that as a sign. You're going to download the starter files from tonight, and you're going to just get until this point. And anytime you get lost in your indentation, or you feel like your divs are missing, or the layout is not correct, gonna stop everything. You're gonna hit the emergency brake. You're gonna get your layout fixed and your divs fixed before you add another div. Right? The whole point here is don't keep going. Don't try and keep up with me. Just try and work through it. And the second you can't work through it, let me know. We're gonna jump in. We're gonna screen share. We're gonna get it figured out. But I think that the trying to keep up with me is making your divs a lot harder and causing some frustration. So we're going to take an 18-minute break. We're going to be back at 7:20. If, like I said, if you're caught up to this point and it's all working, you're welcome to get out of here early. Or you're welcome to stick around and help some other students that may be struggling. But the remainder of class, we're going to just spend time getting our divs fixed up. And if you've got them done, you're welcome to get out of here.
Max?
Yes.
So what size is that picture, by the way? The laptop. I screenshotted it, but I didn't resize it or anything.
I would just go to Unsplash and pick out an image that you like, because it's going to be super high resolution, and then you can just width 100 it, and it should size it down. Or up if it's low resolution.
Alright.
Okay. Take your break. Don't let this frustration get you down. We'll get through it at 7:20. We're going to work everyone through it, make sure everyone's feeling that way. We got Karen and Ariel on from cohort 1 and cohort 2. How big of a problem was indentation for you guys?
I mean, it takes a little time to get used to, but for me, I just watched the videos and I would code along. And if I got to a point where it wasn't working correctly or didn't look like theirs did at that point, I stopped and I just went through line by line to see what I was missing or where it was missing.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're doing, right? We're just chugging along here. We're coding things out, and you guys are like feeling the stress of, oh, wait, I need that to line up, but I need to type in what he's typing in. So we're going to remove that second factor so we can focus on getting that practice in. Ariel, anything to add to that? I know I'm calling you out on the spot. Ariel is going to be our TA for next week, by the way.
No, just that I did the same thing. I don't know how many times I did this over and over and over again. The best thing I can tell you is to compare Max's code from the live server with what you have before you decide to scrap everything. I'm a really big proponent of just throwing it in the trash and crying for half an hour. It's not going to save you any time. Go through Max's and go following it through the video, and you will notice if you're missing just little syntax errors and things like that. It'll be way easier that way.
Yes, it was a good thing the second cohort was virtual, because Ariel's tears would have definitely fried my laptop of all the scrap points, but made it through the program, right? And a lot of it's just perseverance. So let's take our break. We'll be back at 7:20, and then it's just going to be an open class to help you guys work through where you're stuck and where you need help. But I am going to take a break, so don't say anything to me. I will be back.
And it's lined up at 89.
Yeah, let's go through that. So I'm just going to do a search. I'm going to go to unsplash.com. And I'll just do a search for, let's see what comes up if I do a search for a div. Oh, perfect. There's some code. So I'm going to hit the little download button here. It's going to add it to my downloads. So what I'm going to do is just open it and drag it into VS Code. And that's going to add in this long name here. And then I can right click on it and rename and say that's going to be like my headline pic.jpg. And then in my code, I'm just going to delete all of this out. I'm going to add an image tag with a source of headline-pic.jpg and add in my closing tag. Then that is going to come in super big here. So I'm going to add a class to that called full width. And then I need to go into my style.css and say, hey, my full width class is going to have a width of 100%.
Okay.
And that will get it nice and shrunk down for me.
Gotcha. Okay. Let me see.
How's everyone else making out? Does anyone have questions? Anyone do the super painful thing of starting over and trying again from scratch?
I have a question.
Yep.
I haven't quite made it to the image part yet. I just got there. But when I go to Unsplash, any link that I pick will come out to headline dash pic dot, or is that just the spot that's going to be in?
That's just the spot it's going to be in. So you have to rename the file to whatever file name you want to use in your IMG source tag.
But yeah, but this is seems like it was extra small.
Okay. I think I kind of understand.
So you're going to download the image. It's going to go into your downloads folder. You're going to move
name to that.
So after you finish,
you're just going to right click on it and hit rename.
you already have that.
Oh, okay, no problem.
So then you go under that and open up a new one.
Ah.
And then just basically you copy and paste. You copy and paste.
So what does it do? Did it number those bullets?
Over here. I just copy it.
No, so if it says UL, it's unordered. So it's just bullet points, there's no numbers. If it says
But
OL,
so I thought LI creates.
it creates the bullet point thing. So the item that you
Oh,
have to
okay,
do.
gotcha.
So if it had
So
OL,
OL is
ordered,
ordered,
so
where
it'll
we
give you
want to
numbers,
put
right.
UL is no number.
Right.
Just put it, okay.
So yeah,
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
She has lessons on Thursday.
You explained that well, Larry.
So he put it.
Spot on. I wasn't even going to interrupt, Larry. You got it.
Put that.
Yeah,
in it.
list items, we use that same LI tag, whether it's a bullet point or an actual number. The parent tag, the OL or the UL, is controlling whether it's an ordered list with numbers or an unordered list with bullets.
Oh, okay. So, why is there a one next to the style sheet?
Like I can see that. AJ.
Okay. Yeah, there's a one. Or is that the thing you were talking about yesterday? When he said it, he didn't know why there was a
There's
one.
an error.
Max?
Warning.
No, hold on. I can't. There we go. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Sorry, I sound kind of shitty right now. Can you look at my code? Because I got kind of lost when we were doing the indentation parts.
Yep.
And I don't know if I even had an issue to begin with, but I was trying to catch up from, like, I got lost from the copy paste portion of it. So I think I got caught up, but I don't know. I know you're talking about indentation around these areas, but I
Yeah,
don't know if I had issues or not.
I don't think you are. Can you just pull your split screen out a little bit more so I can see it, how it wraps? Um, yeah, perfect. Yeah, I think you're all caught up.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just, look through your current indentation and make sure everything's like opening and closing the way it should, but everything looks right, and the biggest way to know that if it is right or not is looking in the browser and actually seeing that things are lining up where you think they should. So I'm pretty sure you've got everything right there. And if you're feeling like you understand that and you're following along and you're not like struggling with getting that indentation right, you're good for the evening.
Okay, well, I guess like for me, the big issue for today's class was like when you copy pasted, I got lost entirely because I didn't it still looks like a giant sea of divs and everything else that's in it. So I was trying to catch up from that, but then I like completely got lost. So like I can catch up eventually and make it sure that it all lines up where it should be. But yeah.
So if you're feeling like you're getting lost there, it may be worth the practice of just recreating this exact same site.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, you start from the top, you work your way down, and then you start from the left and make your way over to the right, and just repeat that over and over again. But I know it sounds painful, and I know you've got it working, but just practicing doing that and seeing where you get stuck, or if you don't get stuck and it's just a matter of time, should be a pretty big confidence booster for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And when you restart, I would say, if you restart, I should say, don't look at your existing code that you made. Only look at the mockup. Only look at the picture. And if you're able to do that and get all the code lining up, you're completely caught up and good to go.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Who's sharing? Christy? Yep, you're unmuted. You're good.
So I brought the photo over, but I can't figure out how to rename it.
I'm sorry. I'm just kind of sharing at the moment. Am I?
Oh, yeah, sorry, you are. I don't know who. Oh, there's where it says who's sharing. Okay, Christy, I'll come back to you. Wayne, where are you at?
So, is it the type of file why my picture ain't showing?
No, it's because you've got a skr instead of a sir. 87 should be an SRC, not an SCR.
What the hell? I keep
SCR actual
simple. Aya.
Max,
Yeah.
is SCR an actual attribute?
SCR is an attribute. It stands for source.
I know that.
Oh, SRC.
Oh, SRC is source. That's an actual attribute. SCR is not a real attribute.
Oh, I was wondering why it was red like ID. They should like make it not be like others.
So you can technically make your own attributes and then use them in other places of your code. So there is no such thing really as an invalid attribute, but the attributes that are being expected by the browser, those are definitely like more valid.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Before Wayne stops sharing,
yep.
You see how his has the middle line and he can access this like left bar on both. I don't have that. So
click on the little file icon in the top left. Right up here.
Right, I don't have that. That's what I'm saying. I don't have that. I don't have that in mind. Okay. I only have it to the far left. So that's why I can't rename the
Okay, I'll have you share your screen 1 second. I just want to make sure Wayne gets this one part working because I think he's really close to the end.
Okay. This part.
Yep.
Right here. Copy. And is that and this enter width.
Oh, watch what you're typing.
%?
Yep.
Nope.
Yep, you got it.
And this.
Percent.
Oh, crap. Percent. Where is the percentage?
Number 5. Shift
Oh,
5.
Shift 5, yeah. And then this. Yep, that's it. Let's see. Huh. All right.
Well done.
Thank you.
All right, Christy, you're up.
Nice.
Okay, so you see right here, I don't have.
Yeah, that's because you've got a split screen going on.
Oh.
So if you just close the 2 tabs up at the top, you're
Right
going to get into the single screen mode. So like all of these files over here are matching the files that you have open over here as well. So here, let's just clean you up because somehow where's your code?
Right here. See how it says week 3, day 2?
Okay, yeah, you're in split screen and shouldn't be. So close here and then close, yep. And then close this one as well.
But that's my, well, my picture's still in downloads, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, now go to File, New Window. Because whenever this is my code, so you should never be in my code and your code in the same window. So let's go to File up at the top.
I fixed that before class.
Yep, New Window. Now File Open. Or open there, that's fine. Okay, Desktop. My code, week 3, day 2, open. No, don't pick either. Just hit open. Okay, now because you opened the folder, you've got that going on there. So if you want to drag and drop your image in, now you'll be able to do that.
Okay, that's there. Thank God I saved it. Okay. I don't know how I discombobulated that. Let's see. I'm having a crazy time. So
now you can just drag and drop that in. Yep. And then right click on it to rename it.
Okay.
And call it Beach or whatever you want.
My coworker had
not gonna be headline pick.
Said he was gonna work.
Line.
That's fine. Enter. And then go to your index.html. And go down to where your image should be.
Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta fill that line in.
Okay.
Okay. Somebody else can have a turn and if
sure.
I get.
Don't forget your closing arrow on line 88.
Okay.
And then you can add your image tag.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else need help remotely?
I do.
Sure, go ahead and share your screen. Let's take a look.
Yeah, that's the start of the so you needed this.
Here's my code. I need help resizing my image.
Okay, is it showing up in the browser?
Yes.
Okay, so you've got your class full width on it. That looks right. Let's hop over.
It's like the whole browser.
Okay, yeah, let's go into your style sheet.
Okay.
Why there's 2 divs there? Yes, this is the closing div.
Okay, so what we need to do is we added a class called full width, and so now we need to define what that class is gonna be.
Oh, I hadn't gotten there yet. Okay, line 36, I see.
Be out at the end of the
Yeah, so
meeting.
just delete out 22, because that's gonna break your code elsewhere.
Okay.
And then, yeah, if you get down to 36, if you add that class in, that's what should get it working.
Yeah. So, this div right here, so line up with this closing div. Move this one in.
And then you did 100%?
Yep.
Okay. Is there any reason as to why?
Yeah, we want it to be 100% of its parent column, right? So we're not saying 100% of the screen or of the window. We're saying 100% of the parent. So because the parent is a col 6, it won't be any wider than that col 6.
All right, that helps a lot. That's really all I needed help with.
Cool.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
These are in farther.
Who else can I help?
Lists are go in farther.
You can help me, Max. My stuff look like it's all over the place.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen.
Okay.
Zach, I feel you so much on that live stream post.
All right. Hold on. Maybe I should move this over some.
The most frustrating part of doing this tends to be that, like, you know you're in the wrong. You know the computer is not wrong. But just to find it is, like, so infuriating sometimes. So, like, you're not... You will get better at it, I promise.
Okay.
Look at his comments.
So I just wanted to make sure, like, my indentations are even, like, just looking at it. It just...
Everything looks good so far.
Okay.
You're on the left, right?
Yes, I'm on the left.
Okay, so I don't see anything horribly wrong.
Okay.
The way that I tend to find when things go off the rails is looking in the browser. So let's take a look at what's currently showing up.
Okay. This is currently showing up.
Okay, so to me, the first thing that goes off the rails is that another headline that's just a little bit longer does not line up, right? This lines up perfectly here. This lines up perfectly down here. This is lining up, so everything's great, but then it's not here, it's down here instead.
Right.
So that's where we should start looking at our code to figure out what went wrong there. So let's go down to that third headline.
So the first article, this article is in the div.
Okay, headline, we've got our closing div.
The next one is on.
Leave it right there for me so I can mark up your screen. We have our opening div and our closing div. We've got our opening div and a closing div and a closing div.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Oh.
Keep going. 2 more. Yep. Oh, sorry. My drawing on the screen.
It's okay.
All right, save that, and you may find if you were good with the rest of the code.
And I'm not. So it looks like the same thing in that next one too. It might be
Yep.
So then I need to just find. So we said in headline, and that's where there's a closing div there, and that should fix that. It did.
Kind of. Yep. So now we know the problem is going on. Our image is in the right spot and it's positioned correctly. So now the problem's got to be right after our image. So let's go down to that section.
Okay.
And we've got our image going on, but images are self-closing tags. So
it doesn't need to close.
It needs a slash inside of that tag. So slash and then your arrow. Okay, and now we kind of go off the rails a little bit with our indentation. So let's fix our indentation before we worry about any opening or closing divs. So that, okay, well, we've got one problem here. Our div is opening up for our column. what do we want to be in the column? Do we want just the image in the column, or do we want all of this content in the column as well?
All of that in the content as well. Oops,
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. So take your closing div on 90.
Closing div on 90.
But
Okay.
not the comment about it.
Okay.
And move that down. Try taking it out first. Let's see where that nets out.
Okay.
So what we actually want there is an opening div, because that's what's going to be the start of the news article.
Okay.
But go ahead and put that in, closing arrow to finish the tag.
Duh.
And then close out that closing div.
Oops. Hold on. Sorry. Is it? I don't know why that extra.
Yep, just take out that closing div, because what we're trying to do is get the breaking news. Okay, now let's get our indentation right. So where should that opening div that you just put in, how far indented should that be?
Should it go? Sorry. Move over one.
Yep, and just make sure your cursor is at the left side of the arrow. Yep. Okay. Now from 91 down to 98, that's all inside of your div, right?
Right.
So that should go over one as well.
Is there a way? I'm sorry, you told me yesterday the way to move it.
Yep,
all
just highlight 91 through 98. And then tab. One more down.
Okay.
Actually, should go to 99, since I have to move over the other div.
Okay. And now we're able to line up here. This div is on the right line and is closing out. This div is on the right line and is closing out. But when we follow this div all the way down, notice what's missing.
A closing div.
You got it. So go ahead and throw that in.
I'm sorry, follow all the way down. Should it be? That's my problem. Trying to figure out where. Oh, that's there. It should close. Should it close on that line, or
it should close between 98 and 99? Yeah, you're right.
I'm sorry, my brain is not processing that properly. It should be here. So am I adding like a new line there?
Yep.
Or
yeah. And then hit Shift Tab, because you want that to line up with this line down. And now put in your closing tab.
Okay.
Well, how do I?
Oh, not that type it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what.
And command and save. Take a look back into the browser just to see what it's doing.
And that is remarkably close to what it should be doing. If you scroll down, I think you're completely caught up now. Oh, the only problem is your 3
off.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that 3 should be there. It should just be up in that side column. So spend some time figuring out. You've got something else going on there.
Okay.
Where you need your 3. You got a couple closing divs there that might not be lining up. So go ahead and see if you can figure out how to get that 3 up there and make sure everything's lining up, and you'll be good to go.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And we still got plenty of time left, so if you get stuck somewhere else, come back off mute, Shadia, and let us know.
Okay, thanks.
It's definitely.
Anyone else need a turn?
Anyone else need help other than Christy?
Help me, because I think my only problem is that my eyes get confused lining everything up.
Sure, go for it. And then Christy, I'll come back to you next. Go ahead and share your screen.
Okay. 1 second.
No, go space. Enter. No, put the space there. Hit down. No, I think leave it.
I realized that I did I messed up some of the headings, so it made made it go off a little bit. So it's probably a little bit behind in some spots and caught up.
Okay.
Okay, so now what clothing.
All right, so let's see your browser because the browser's a much easier point to see where it goes off the rails than it is trying to get through all of your code. Okay, so expand it out a little bit for me so we can see how it's wrapping. Okay, and so where do you notice it going wrong first?
You see,
In my divs, in my indentation. I've been going back and
I just put it after the.
I didn't notice recently. Just
Put it
now.
after the end.
Okay, so before we go into the code, you've got to tell me, you've got to be able to identify where it's breaking in the browser. So let's go back to the browser.
HR.
It's HR. If you want to
Oh, just single. And close it.
Type HR.
Okay, so is your top row the way it should be?
So you just type HR and hit return.
That looks good to me, right? All right, what about your second bar? Is your second bar right?
Yeah. No.
So hit HR. With no
What's
errors.
wrong? Sorry, this area, the second row there, is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about your latest section? Is everything in here right?
I was thinking.
It's BR HR.
BR push it down. BR push it down.
Right,
Thank
yeah.
you.
It is. Sorry, I there's a lot of people talking in person, so it's harder to hear.
And let me just look at the paper. Sort of, yes.
Yes. Okay. So now we come over here to your image, which should be the next area. And your image isn't showing up. So let's get your image fixed first, and then we'll look at what comes after it, right? Because we always want to work left to right and then top to down, right? So we don't even want to look at the content stuff. We want to get what's the next thing broken. That's going to be your image. Okay. So your image, let's go to your image tag, and you've got this headline.jpg that you're trying to reference. That is what you need to go find a picture and put in your own files. So if you go to unsplash.com, so if you hit the download free button, that's going to throw it in your downloads. So we can go back to VS Code. Oh, okay, that works too. Okay, and what we want to do is go back into VS Code. Come out of full screen mode because we need access to the files. And then we're going to go to Finder. File, new window. New Finder window. Yeah, you're right. And go to your downloads. Okay, that's fine. Drag that into right here.
Okay, I didn't need it. I'm used to using Windows.
Okay, and then go back to VS Code and go to your index.html. And what we need to do is drag tree image into your day 2 folder.
It is in my day 2 folder. That's right.
No, it's not. It's in your week 3 folder. Yep, there you go. Now you got it. Move. And now we want to change headline.jpg right there to say treeimage.jpg. Okay, and now let's save and go see if that's in the browser. Okay, so it's there. It's just mega big. So what we need to do is make sure that that full width is working. And good test. Let's see what that does. Okay, that didn't change the size at all. So there's got to be a problem. We've got full width going on there. And let's go to index.html.
Lowercase w with that one.
Yep.
Not make that lowercase w or change another one.
Yeah.
Oh, click again. Sorry, I was drawing on your screen and sometimes that overrides it. Okay, go ahead and save that. And now your image is nice and tiny. Okay, so that's good progress. Now your image is showing up where you want. Now what's the next problem?
Everything exit out of my other picture.
If you go to check this one, if that one's mine, that should give you an idea. Yeah, there you go.
So my breaking news should be in the middle.
Exactly. Okay, so let's go back to your index.html. And what we're going to do is, this says start of news article. So if it's the start, what kind of div tag should it be?
I'm not sure. It should be opening div? I'm not sure.
It should be an opening div, but what you've got here is a closing div. So let's take that out and save, and let's see where that gets you.
Okay, it's in the middle.
You got it. Good work.
Thank you.
I know it's painful, but sometimes it's just getting through them. Christy, I know I promised you next, but Zach, did you ever find your missing div?
Because you don't have the variable image on the left side.
Yeah, I should be good now. I think everything's all set. Thank you.
Awesome. Good work. All right, Christy, you're up.
Okay, so
Yeah, like, so you know when they give you that random number.
I think my problem is right here. So I have a red div here
Mm-hmm.
and a red div here.
So as
and
soon as you see your first red div, you know the problem's got to be above it. So it's not a problem with your 56 minutes. So let's look at the line right above that. What are you missing?
So I said it to myself. What type of
oh wait, this.
Mm-hmm.
I think you told. No, is that the one you told me?
And take out your closing div because you already have your closing div. That's trying to be overly helpful. So take out the closing div that it added.
Wait a second.
I tried to put text in there into a big class.
Jeez Louise.
Okay, and now you've got the exact same problem on 81.
Oh, right here. Oh. And I've been staring at this for a very long time and couldn't figure it out. Let's see.
One more.
Yellow.
Okay, now let's take a look. Save. Save. Okay.
I've been got out of it.
Oh.
It might be just like the first question.
Scroll down. Do you have your content beneath it?
Okay, it is. Okay.
Look at you all caught up.
Oh gosh. Today was rough. I need a mental break.
So what
Okay.
I'm giving you 36 minutes back of tonight's class, but I'm really going to suggest after you take a break that you redo this whole assignment, not looking at my code, but just looking at the mock-up and just flowing through it all and retrying to do it.
Okay.
And then,
Okay.
folder with my code.
Now, is there a way to go into this same day and then do like index.html 2?
You should do index2.html.
Index2.html.
You don't ever want to be messing with file extensions, but you can definitely do an index2.html.
I'll write that down.
And if you're using live server, you may need to change the URL and say /index2.html in the browser.
Okay, but I can keep using the same CSS.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna hang around because I might learn something.
Sure.
So I'm not gonna leave, but I'll stop.
You're welcome to. We're not kicking you out. I already stopped your screen share. Go ahead,
Okay.
Danielle.
Okay, thank you.
And then, all right, so now on this one, open up your home folder. No,
So I have 3
one of them.
red.
Yep. So you've got the exact same problem Christy had. Look at where your red started and look at the line above it.
And then drag it
So
down.
it's a div class row.
Right. And so look at the line above it. And what are you missing?
Do I need to just close it out?
You do. And then just take out that extra div that they added in for you.
Now, wherever you want it, you have to do.
Okay. And now look at your 53 is your next red one.
Right, so
it's not a problem on 55 minutes. So go the line above that. And what do you notice?
And then it's gonna open.
Again, a div class. Oh, it needs some closing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to type the name of the picture, like the whole name, and then
take out the extra div that they added in for you.
Okay.
And now you just keep going on this problem. Whenever you see a red one, go up to the line above it and see if the problem's there. And if not, it's probably 2 lines above it.
If it was in a different folder, you would have to do some other stuff.
All right. The other thing was,
I think he might have highlighted.
I don't know what I'm missing, and I've gone like line by line, but I don't have.
Copy it so that he can paste it.
I think you went to like 117, and I'm like only at 100. I don't know. I'll have to like go line by line and look.
Okay.
Send something.
Yeah, if you get stuck, let me know. The more important thing than going line by line and having it match mine exactly is going into the browser and seeing where it broke, right? So doing the same thing that I think I just did with Nicole, right? Of figuring out where does it stop looking like mine, and starting there and working your way down, right? So looking at this, your menu looks this. Sorry, starting here. All of that looks great. So you're good to go there. Then go down another line and say, okay, all of this looks great. So I'm going to go down another one. Okay, we always start on our left and make our way down. This looks just like mine. So you're good to go there.
Okay.
The 38 minutes, okay, that's in the right spot. All of that looks fine. But my headline 2, where should my headline 2 be? My headline 2 should actually be up right here. It shouldn't be down there. So that's when I would say, okay, let's stop. Let's not do any more line comparisons. Let's go back into VS Code and figure out what's going on there. So you've got your row going on. Let's go up to that section of the code. It's going to be up a little higher.
HTML, but I didn't do it on my
Okay, so we've got our latest. We've got opening row. We've got our column. And then our indentation goes off the rails. So let's fix our indentation. Let's get our, where does it stop? Where does it start being wrong?
You can find it if you look at.
I don't understand it. I see like it's inside of this column 3, but then it's also inside of another column. So is there something off with the?
Yeah, so the rule is whenever we open a div, we go in a level, and then whenever we close the div, we come back out a level. So we open the div here, and we go in a level like we're supposed to, but then look at that closing div. Because it's a closing div, this line right here is supposed to come out a level. So 45 should come out a level.
Might be one of the last things.
I don't understand what you mean by that. Like
hit Shift Tab.
So to resize the picture.
Now you just moved it out a level. So what we're saying is every time that you hit the tab button, you're moving in a level. Every time you Shift Tab, you're moving out a level. So the
Okay.
reasoning here is say, okay, whenever we open a div, we're going to go in another level there. But whenever we close the div, which is this tag right here, that
Okay.
needs to be the same level as the opening one. And so,
So
you'll see
the
this
over-
line comes down, and now that lines up.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to do the same thing here. This div, what level should that be on, right? Because we're like level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So where should that div call on line 46 be?
In the style sheet, the last
This
thing.
div call, should it be over one?
Yep. So you can shift tab or just hit delete. Okay, now we want something inside that column. So get between your divs there, your tags. Right in between where our content's supposed to go.
Okay.
46 between the two tags. And hit enter. Now we're gonna stop and say, all right, is my closing div at the same level as my opening div? Well, this line follows all the way down, so it is. So our indentation is right. Now, what is supposed to be inside that column?
The tag.
So go ahead and move that headline 2 into that column.
Oh.
But now you have it, the ID is
because the latest.
So you look, so now if you go back to your picture.
Okay, and delete it out from there.
Okay.
There's a class. So you, I don't know, it's like the same.
I mean, you can do it.
Highlighting both for some reason.
That's fine. Just highlight the bottom and hit delete, and I don't think it will delete that other one. Okay, so now we're looking at this and we're saying, okay, we've got our opening div and our closing div. We've got an opening div and a closing div. Now, is there supposed to be anything else in this row?
I don't know.
So go look at mine or go look at the mock-up and figure out, is anything else supposed to be in this row?
You have to put that on the left column.
Right, so you need to put this ID here where you have left column.
Okay, row 49. You have
Okay, so you shouldn't be looking at my code. You should be looking at my mock-up picture. You should be looking at the picture. In that picture alone, is there anything else that is in the same row as the 38 minutes and the headline 2?
Okay, give me 1 second. Let me look.
See that and see if that shows up.
I think it's that. Yep, that second one.
I can't even. Okay.
There you go.
So it was just.
Is that this?
Sometimes that's
So
what.
look at right here. Is there anything else in that row other than the time and the headline?
This information?
Is that in the same row?
Yeah.
It looks like it is to me.
No. So if we draw a table around this,
Okay.
it's sorry, it's slightly off where I draw it and where it shows up, but that's one row. This is another row, and these are our 2 columns. Man, that makes it really hard to see that. Hold on, let me. So imagine a table, right? When we have a table in Excel or in Microsoft Word or whatever, right? Can you see where the 2 columns are?
I would say this is a column and that's a column.
Perfect. What's in row 1?
Row 1 is the 6 minutes in the headline 1.
Perfect. What's in row 2?
15 minutes in the headline 2.
And what's in row 3?
45 minutes in the headline 3.
Okay, so is there anything else in row 1 that we need other than the time and the headline? So let's go back to our code and let's confirm that. So in our code, we've got our row and we've got our column and our column in that row. So that means our row should be done. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, well, this div and this div line up, and this div and this div line up, and this div line up. So this div must be an extra one. So go ahead and take that out. And now let's save and look and see what it looks like in the browser.
Do I need to go up a line before I save?
Yep.
No?
And you can take that one out too. Okay, save and let's go over. If you have your live server running, you can just swipe over with 3 fingers on the trackpad. Okay, now look what's going on. This is all lining up. So the first thing, so we're able to look there and say, okay, this is lining up with this, and we've got our table going on, right? With our rows and our columns, and all of that's working. So what's the next thing that's going wrong in your code?
Well, this line here seems to be off. Well, it moved like everything over here.
Yeah, so where I would start next is everything going on over here should really be going on over here.
Right.
So that's what I would work on next, is figuring out, okay, why is that not in the right spot? I need to make sure that all of my divs are closed here up until this point and everything's working before I move over and figure out why that isn't over here.
Okay, let me take a look at it, and then if I get stuck again, I'll screen share.
Perfect.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's really easy to say, well, it's all working on Max's code, so let me just get his code to look exactly like my code. But that's not helping you learn how to debug, right? The point of debugging is going, my code broke somewhere, instead of figuring out where it's wrong compared to Max's code, thinking through, all right, what is the browser doing wrong? Where's the first place that it goes wrong? Let me find that in my code, and then let me work through that and figure out where it is.
All right, thank you.
All right, anyone left in the room? How are you guys making out?
Okay, Max, it's me again.
Okay.
Sorry. So I am at the end, and I got to like the 3 that we was trying to figure out, and my indentation again is off, but I don't see why it's off. Like I'm missing.
All right, go ahead and share your screen. Let's find it.
Jeez. Sorry. It's wrecking my brain. Okay. So it seemed like it's pretty much on track until I get down past
okay, so
L.
Yep, put your mouse on that 110 div. Click between like the D and the I. Yep, and now let's scroll up and let's see what that's closing out.
Oh.
So if you go up, you're going to go until you find that light gray, and that's closing out your container.
Okay.
Did you think that was closing out your container?
I did not, because I think the close of my container should have already been closed, right?
No, your container shouldn't be closed until your row is closed.
Oh, okay. So then that shouldn't be there.
So really, what we know is working is that this col 6 is working. And
right.
We know the col 3 above it is working. But if this is on the right level, nope, we've got something wrong going on. Because this div should have our image, should have our first news article, and should have our second news article in it. So what we're going to do is we're going to say the div opens here and it closes here. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, so let's follow this line down. Yep, you got it. That needs to come over. Okay, now this div, you said is a start of a news article.
Right.
If it's the start, should it be an opening div or a closing div?
It should be an opening div.
Yep, so take that out. Okay, and what level should that be indented to?
Should it move over?
Why should it move over?
So it could all be lined up. No,
So it can all be lined up, yes, but because we've got a closing one here, so whatever indentation the closing one is on should be the same one the
Start
next
of the
opening one is on. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. So
Okay, so move that over. Now grab everything in here and tab that over. Because that's now all inside of our div. Down to 108.
Tab. No?
Just the tab key.
Oh, sorry. I think I did it wrong.
Oh, it may be me drawn on the screen. Okay.
Okay.
And then your UL needs to go over on 108 as well to line up there. Okay, and now we've got our opening tag. So let's figure out where our closing tag should be indented to.
It need to be indented to there to close that.
Okay, now we've got a div hanging out all the way out here. We've got no idea what that div is closing. So go ahead and click on that div between the D and the I, and that's going to highlight it. And that's closing out your col 6 up here.
Okay, so then they need to move over to.
Yep.
Line up with that.
And I think you are going to find... Okay, so where is 111? Where should that be indented to? No.
Nope.
What's our rule? If it's a closing div...
Oh, if it's closing, it should be this opening here. So then this div needs to, because it's closing that, it needs to move over.
And move your 3 over as well, because it's inside the div.
Right.
Okay, and now I think... Yeah, so your last one?
This one.
I think that just needs to move over 1 to the left. All right, save, and let's look in your browser.
Okay, I think that's an old one. I'm sorry, I think that's from yesterday. Yes. But now it's off because shouldn't the picture be...
I can't, you would have to stop your screen share and restart it because you just shared your code. You didn't share the whole desktop.
Oh, okay. Sorry, 1 second.
No problem.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got the same problem going on of we need to figure out where it's breaking before we go any further.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I don't think I saved that. Or did I? I did.
You did. You're
okay.
Yeah. So do we have any problems in our top nav bar? Is anything in that box off?
Nope, that's not off. Everything is lining back up until that same spot again at 55 minutes.
You got it. That is exactly wrong. So that is exactly where it's wrong. That's not exactly wrong. So let's go up to that part of the code.
Okay. 73. Another headline.
Okay, let's just drag your window out so I can see the end of that headline. That's pretty long.
Oh, sorry, and I don't went to the bottom. I'm messing
Keep going over to the right. It's to the right of the scroll bar that you can expand. There you go. Oh, yeah, you got it.
Okay. And I'll move it out some more so we can see it. Okay. So, because we went and fixed it.
Are you sure you've got the right file open in your browser?
I don't know. Let's close. All right, we're just gonna close all of those because that's just crazy. And then we're gonna hit port. Oops. Okay, I don't know what was going on.
Okay, I'm like, your code's right. You're
me
not
too.
Going crazy.
I fixed that already. Shouldn't it still be fixed?
Okay, so yeah, you should be good to go. So I would just go through. I think you're really close to getting that understanding, and I know it's gonna drive you crazy, but just going through this again and not looking at my code, just looking at the mock-up and practicing your openings and your closings and your indentations is really going to knock it home and help it solidify.
Okay.
It's tough to start over from scratch, but that practice, I'm telling you, even though it's the same exact output, is going to be the difference.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Good luck. Awesome
Thanks.
work. All right. Who else needs help?
Yeah, you want to take a look at mine?
Sure do.
I know. One of the first things for me is how did you scale the image?
Yep. So let's go to your HTML and see what you've got going on your image tag.
Mhm.
Okay, so you've got your image, your headline pic, and your class full width. Everything is going good there on line 81. And so let's go to your style. And you've got full width, and you're missing a percentage. So it's 100, 100 what? 100 pixels, 100% is what we want there.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And then the other thing is check your class name. I probably camel cased it, meaning that W is capitalized and it's lowercase here. So look at your full width.
Yeah.
See how that's a lowercase W?
Yeah.
If you go back to your HTML, I'm pretty sure it's a capital W as well. So save that. And then it looks like you can just hit Command S and that will save.
Yeah.
And then go to your index and just Command S that for me. And let's go to your browser and see what's going on. There you go.
All right. So is that the only thing that was the only thing that was off, right?
Looks good to me.
Okay. Yeah, I've been sitting here waiting this whole time just for that.
Yep, just the little things, the percentage and then the case sensitivity. That's all that did it.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Max.
No problem. Good work. You were very close.
All right.
Zach, is your video back on trying to tell me something?
Yeah. So if I try to do the advertisements in the right-hand column, how do I adjust the size of them?
You're going to use the same class that you used on your image in the center.
That didn't work for me. I tried
Okay.
making my own class and that didn't work either.
Share your screen. Let's take a look. Okay.
It's gonna so we'll see.
Okay. Let's go to your CSS. And you are missing colons. Well, you're missing a colon on 39. And then just go through 42 through 48 and comment those out because it would be better if we use them all. So the full width one. So if we highlight 45 through 42 and just hit Command/, that's going to just comment them out so they don't cause a problem. Okay. And then save. And then go to index and then just change that class to full width.
Okay.
Beautiful. Sweet. Well done.
Thanks.
So easy to let that one little frustration be like, my website's ruined. And then it's like 2 lines of code and then everything's back to normal.
Max.
Yep.
How can I send her my advertisement?
If you add a text center, you're on the the final right column.
Yeah.
If you add a text center to the col-3 that the ads are in, it should center them.
What about the word?
That's
word.
What she was. I'm trying to send her my advertisement, just the word.
When we tried that, it didn't do it. It didn't move it.
Share your screen.
We tried to.
I know, I even tried putting a class on the P tag and it wouldn't do it. Yeah, I know.
That should text center should definitely be working. Maybe try making it a span. But maybe if I see the code, I'll be able to get it quicker. Try changing your H6 to a span tag and see if that does it.
We didn't try.
No, that was one thing we didn't try.
Right.
So it's got to be an inline element in order to be able to use text center on it.
So you can get rid of 42 through 44 too, since we're not using it anymore. On your CSS, sorry, I should have. Just delete it and then save it.
Yep, and then save both of them to your index.html isn't saved. Okay, take a look in the browser.
Well, let me close this. No, look at it.
It's still.
Well, he can't see it, so can you get it to show?
Yeah. Is it like?
Oh, okay. So here's your problem. It is actually centered. Oh, maybe not. Let's do this. Let's go back to your code. And at the very bottom of your CSS, add a container class of the CSS over on the right. Do a .container. And then your curly braces and go inside that block. And then do border 2px solid red. Border colon. Colon there. Other colon. Yeah, 2px solid red with spaces in between. And yep, semicolon. And then go back, bring your browser window, save, and then bring your browser window back over for me. Okay, so now you can see it actually is centered in there. It was just the container that was a little bigger. So if you like shrink that down, you'll be able to see that the content actually is centered in advertisement.
Okay.
And if that bugs you and you're like, but I want it to go the full width of the page, you could just change your container to a container fluid and then it would be the full width.
Right.
So how do I do that?
So go to where your other container is. In your HTML. Go up. Where you have your second container. To start on the second container. Keep going.
There you go, 43.
Yep.
Just make that a container dash fluid. And now it's just not going to have that space on the side of the page. And so it will actually be truly centered.
So now this actually.
Yes. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, that's like a visual trick. When all that white space is over there, it's really hard to tell where the center of that is. But when you put the border around it, it makes it easier.
I'm going to go back to style it my way. I just need to put the code in.
I need help.
Thank you.
So let me just show my screen.
Yep. Is anyone else stuck, by the way, just so I know? Okay, cool.
At the bottom, I got an extra couple of divs, and my spacing is, my indentation is like less than yours. I counted the lines, and it's making my what's it called? Like sideways like this.
Okay, so drag that out for me just a little bit. I want to make sure in the browser, I just want to make sure that the side columns are right. So go back to your browser and drag the browser window so it's wider.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. So where's the first point you realize it's breaking?
Breaking news.
Okay, so and it's the second breaking news, which is important. So let's go back to your code. Okay, and so.
Oh.
Okay, and then get your indentation right there. So how far over to the left should that be? Yep. Okay, and then go ahead and finish through your indentation.
Maybe more.
Yep, there you go. And if you just highlight 95, put that back where it is. Delete one more out of there. You have an extra space that shouldn't be there. Hit tab. Hit right arrow and then the delete key. You've got just a space that shouldn't be in there. There you go. Okay. Now highlight 95 through 99. And now hit the tab key. And hit it one more time. Now that's all lining up for you. So you can move several lines over. Okay, so now you've got a closing div. Go ahead and fix that.
But you do.
I do, but I have it properly indented. So just move that over.
If I download, because I'm on Google.
You'll get rid of it?
No. Keep it there. Just move it over. So, okay, now that's lining up, right?
Yes. Okay.
So now we want to be outside of our column, of our col 6, because we're done with the col 6. There's nothing else to put in there. So one of your closing divs at the bottom, I think you're actually just missing it. You've got two closing. Yeah, so what I have is this div right here is closing out the news article. You've got this div here, and it's closing out the news article. Now, what is this div closing in my code?
The call 6.
The col 6. Where is your closing div for the col 6?
Right here.
Nope. Because you broke an indentation rule. You opened a div, but all of this code isn't indented and should be.
So do I put it in here?
So you want to fix your indentation first. So go from there all the way up to 80. So highlight 80 through 100. And hit tab. And now after 100, add a new line. And close out your div. And, yep, and shift tab so it's lining up. Okay, save, and let's look in the browser. And you're good to go.
Thank you.
No problem.
Hey, Jackie over here.
I probably could.
All right, any final questions for this evening? We feeling like we're loving divs? We're feeling like we're getting good practice? We're feeling like things are lining up? Hopefully making progress?
I feel like you are.
Yeah.
So I know it was a long class and a frustrating class, but if you're still with me, fill out the daily feedback form, give me feedback. We can always improve, we can always get better. Any final questions, Wayne?
Was there a video that we were supposed to watch?
We were supposed to watch a video on DevTools tonight. We will watch that tomorrow instead.
Okay, I'm just trying to. Haha. All right, I am out.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Good night, guys.
Have a good night, guys.